TVZ on Altazim Stronghold. So, spawning in the lower right, we have playing as a red Zerg today. VALOR for Team Rival Gaming. And spawning in the upper left for Chobo Team 6, TaliTemlaa as our orange Terran. So Altazim is a pretty good map for both Terran and Zerg. Zerg have the advantage of having a million bases to choose from and generally go throughout, whereas the Terran have extreme opportunities for drop play. So in my personal opinion, I find it a very, very good and balanced map for TVZ. One of my very favorite to play on. I know a lot of people don't like these huge 4-player maps, but I personally really enjoy them because I enjoy big macro games. Anyway, we have that first Overlord being sent out a little bit. No, the first Overlord, that's the second one. But we have the typical Overlords going out to scout for VALOR. But as it is a cross spawn, he's not going to find the Terran base all that quickly, although he's going to know where it is. And, you know, short of weird liftoff play, which I have seen, and among other things, a few very amusing Fun Day Mondays. And also a few times even in pro games on Habitation Station. Going for that gold base first. Anyway, so we're seeing a hatch first out of VALOR, which is very typical, in fact almost automatic on Altazim Stronghold. The main question is, do you put it down here or up here? Both have their uses. Putting it down here allows for earlier creep spread and for your third then to be more protected and allow you access to minerals a little later. I'm actually a big fan of putting my first base down here as a Zerg rather than up here. Our Terran also aims to have gone CC first. Now building his first barracks as part of that wall off. For those of you unfamiliar with this map, you pretty much get a free natural, as the only way into the natural via ground is through your main base. Is this ramp, which is a typical small ramp from a main base, is all you have to hold off for ground-based assaults. That said, it's still a very good map for any air-based aggression, considering all of the space around this natural for any sort of flying unit to hide in. So we have this scouting SCV running under the scouting Overlord, which may in fact tell VALOR, if he's watching very closely, will tell both players in fact where the other player is if they're watching very closely. VALOR using all of his Overlords out for map vision and with a pretty early gas and pretty early speed, leaving only one worker on gas after getting 100 for that speed. First few Zerglings are picking away at this SCV, who's still going to get a pretty full scout of the base. Sees the gas, at least. Now Zerglings do take out that SCV, but so the SCV did not confirm that it was a hatch first build, but might be pretty obvious to someone who knows timings well. It's also just a pretty good guess here on Altazim. See a factory coming down there for TaliTemlaa, as well as his third CC already well on the way, and 2 engineering base. Starting up that all-important tech lab, but using that as part of the wall-off, not always the safest of things, because if the Zerg player, say, decides to do a Baneling bust, you can often lose your current research. So if you see an early Baneling bust, it's often surprisingly successful if the Zerg player can see that and take down Stim before it's done. So kind of get double duty with your Baneling bust, because at the very least you get to delay Stim. Anyway, so we got this Overlord heading out and confirming that there is in fact a second base for TaliTemlaa. The other Overlord also heading over to continue to scout the map in general and the Terran base in specific. So some very good scouting out of VALOR so far this game. Another tech lab being built, and that first tech lab actually having a factory put on it to make a siege tank, which actually makes perfect sense, as all that stuff I was saying about that Stim being vulnerable, well, not so much when you got a factory on it. Usually most Terrans don't go for the upgrade aids in here unless they're going for a very heavy Hellion play and taking that blue flame upgrade, so... Oh, with that, with the tech lab being part of the wall now, a fair bit less dangerous for our Terran players, just using it to build siege tanks, and siege tanks being wonderful early defense against things like, say, a Baneling bust. So some pretty good decision making out of TaliTemlaa so far. Now those Overlords quite in position to see all that. In the meantime, we have a lair down for VALOR. His third base just about finished. Baneling speed halfway done. A few spore crawlers on the way to take out any banshees that he might see, but we don't see... I don't even think we have a starport on the other side of the map, let alone a starport with a tech lab for banshees. Nope, what we have is mostly lots of racks and that one factory. Armory just about finished as +1 infantry is up, so +2 armor can be started immediately if that is his choice. Stimpack also got halfway done. And taking a scan to confirm that that third base is indeed up for VALOR. In the meantime, VALOR has a number of lings out here trying to gain that early map control. And that third base is also up for TaliTemlaa, and pretty darn vulnerable as it's got nothing protecting it. Just out of the range of this one Zergling though, so he doesn't know it's there yet, I don't think. Let me see if it's actually on his map vision. Actually, it is on his map vision. In fact, it's in view of his Overlord, so he might well be preparing an attack on it soon, as it is completely undefended other than that siege tank. Those two siege tanks. Mules in the first SCVs come out of that third base. But these lings seem content to just maintain map control, at least until all of their friends join them. It looks like we are going to see a Baneling bust out of VALOR. Not sure how well that's going to work if he actually tries to bust into the main, considering those siege tanks, but he might at least be able to take down this third base, or at the very least force it to lift. Quite the bank that VALOR is building up there. I suspect he's waiting for that spire to finish and then just build an entire flock of mutas right away. Although he does build 27 drones at once. That is a lot of drones, man. Especially when you've already got full saturation on two bases, only one more base. So almost a few too many drones, but probably planning on more buildings and expanding more. Actually, we see double spires now. A second spire being added on by VALOR, so he's going to go very heavy into that Mutalisk play. Which, having scouted siege tanks, makes perfect sense as well. Siege tanks don't shoot up very well. In fact, not at all. And at this time, TaliTemlaa seems to be moving his troops down to try to protect this third base. Sieging up his tanks on the low ground. With all of his troops over here, though, this base is a pretty prime target for Mutalisks. With only those 2 turrets, if that Mutalisk flock, I suspect, actually will be materializing very soon, does, that could be disastrous. In the meantime, he's taken down one of the 2 overlords out there. Second overlord still not being seen by VALOR. And this Terran Bioforce with those 2 tanks as backup starting to move across the map and try to take some map control for TaliTemlaa. In the meantime, VALOR has this large pack of Zerglings and Banelings over here. And there's that Mutaflock I said would materialize almost immediately. 15 of them on the way. But before that Mutaflock is out, it looks like this Terran force is going to engage with these Zergs and Banes. And with absolutely no upgrades, these Zerglings are going to fall apart really quickly. Our Zerg player having chosen to take absolutely no upgrades, looking to be pretty devastating for his supply at the moment. Those Marines really doing some work. The tanks did go down, but those are 2-2 Marines versus 0-0 Zerglings. It's not going to go that well for the Zerglings. Get a queen for free that continue to charge across the map. The mutas are now out, but I don't know if that mutaflock is big enough to take down these Marines with medevacs. The medevacs go down, and with support from those Zerglings on the ground, they are able to take down that force. But as we say that, TaliTemlaa has another group of bio heading across the map with 1 medevac. Only 1 medevac for healing means this isn't necessarily the best protected of forces. All those Banelings, this is probably going to be pretty disastrous for TaliTemlaa, as the Banelings blow everything up, and in fact the next reinforcement wave is brought back for the moment. A very smart plan, having seen what you've seen. All those Banelings and Mutalisks. Scanning around the entire Zerg base to see what he can see about the layout of everything. And those mutas with their pretty diminished number heading across. Only 10 of them remaining on the board right now, but another 10 about to join them. Again, getting to a pretty respectable mutaflock there. Looks like Hive Tech is just about done for VALOR as well. +2 melee attack now on the way. +1 and +1, +1, +1 having been finished. Yeah, that's +1 for her melee carapace, both ground and air attack. So we got the mutas over here, little army for TaliTemlaa over here, just about to hit that creep spread of VALOR. Pretty decent creep spread. Certainly not the best I've seen, but not too bad either. Both a 4th and a 5th base on the way for VALOR, but it looks like that 4th base isn't going to be very long for this world if those Marines and Marauders decide to go that way, and a Hellbat. In the meantime, the mutas are harassing over on this side of the map, having forced an SCV pull, taking down those 2 missile turrets. And as I said, that was a vulnerable point, and there it is. However, these mutas did not scout the new 4th base coming up, and these Marines are now engaging down at the 3rd base, VALOR. Have indeed taken down the hatch and are taking down Zerglings, which are just slowly funneling into and just being absolutely destroyed by this Terran Bioforce. Those 3-3 Marines just being way too much for 1-1 Zerglings to handle with no Banelings to be seen. Now we've got some Banelings coming in, but pretty decent splitting allows most of them to get taken down for pretty cheaply for our Terran player. The Mute is coming all the way back to deal with these Marines that were left here in the back. It is going to get cleaned up, but it sure cost a lot to clean up for our Zerg player. Lost a number of his mutas, lost the base, and a large pile of Zerglings lost pretty much for free. And look at the resources lost. It's 5,000 better for our Terran player at this point. So the Terran player with a pretty commanding lead, 19 in supply above a Zerg player. Massing up another army and sending it across to join these medevacs. One of these medevacs is almost completely dead. 1 HP. 1 HP for the win, as we say. But the other 3 at full health as their Marines and another few Hellbats coming out to join them. In the meantime, we have 3-3 for the Zerg player on the way. 2-2 now having been completed, allowing those Zerglings to keep up with the superior upgrade Terran a little bit. The 3-3 Marines just shred through those mutas. They really can't do anything, especially targeting down the Marines with no support from Zerglings. Absolutely devastating for our Zerg player, having now no more mutas on the field, I believe. As well as not even very many Zerglings, just pretty much probes and a few Zerglings, but not that much. So, anyway. So there are those few Zerglings coming up trying to do what they can, but between those Marines and those Hellbats, it isn't very much. VALOR GG's out. Yet another set for Chobo Team 6 today.